Hello and welcome to round 4 of the listening skills course. If you haven't already done rounds 1, 2 and 3, I really recommend going back and doing it. In Follow the Leader, we're going to be trying to listen to a piece of ringing where the bells are moving around. And so you need round 1, you need the ability to count your place as the ring is going. You need round 3 especially because that's teaching you to, or practicing anyway, to hear the highest bell, the treble, and the lowest. And in this one, it's the highest one we want to hear. We want to hear that treble bell, but also we need to hear it as it changes its position. So whereas in round 3 it always was the same repeated row, here it's going to be different every time. So if you haven't done those ones, you really want to try those before you give this a go. If you've got the sheet, it's going to be a lot easier. Find round 4 page, because you can see I've got the little explanation there, but I've also got these boxes that you can fill in. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to hear it do rounds, and then the bells are going to start moving. And you're going to put a dot or a cross, or probably easier just to, if you've got a pencil, just do a dot in it. If it's a biro, it might not dot very easily, so a little line, just to mark where you hear the treble in each line. It can't be in 6th place because all of the bits of ringing I've got are doubles. I've put that there because the tenor will sound, and it's a good, I went for doubles so that you can hear the tenor and start the new row. If you lose count, then you can get that back. And it might be you get a bit and then you get lost, and then you pick it up again, and that's fine. You know, if you get little bits of this correct, then I'm going to take that as a win, because this is not easy stuff. Okay, and then if you haven't got the sheet, then just having some squared paper is going to be really useful. Just rule off maybe the 6 wide strip going down, just so that it's easier to keep the count going. Questions 1 and 2 on the example, I think they're 20 rows long. 3 and 5 are also, 4 is a bit longer and 6 is a bit longer still. But if you've got a page of squares, then just keep going down. Just make sure you start at the top and you'll be absolutely fine. Let me show the example and you'll see what I mean. So here we've got the boxes, and I'm going to use my pen to, as a count, he'll say go next time as they're ringing rounds again. And I know, because it's a genuine bit of ringing this, that the treble can either stay where it is or move up in 2nd place. And when it's in 2nd place, it can either go back to 1st, stay in 2nd, or up to 3rd. There's no jumping around. Now, it might be that you think it's in 3rd here, and then you think it's in 5th, and you might think, oh, well, I must be wrong, but it's always possible that you got this one wrong. Okay, so don't necessarily doubt yourself. If it has jumped, if you are confident, then just put the dot in and carry on as it is, because you might have made a mistake before. That is possible. And if you've done a bit of, if you're advanced enough to know about how methods work, you might think, yeah, but the treble always just goes back and forward. And that's true in plain methods, and it dodges back and forth in treble bobbing methods. But what I've chosen are principles where all the bells, including the treble, has a weird squiggly line with dodges and places. So it could do anything. And your job is to pick out where it is and what it's doing as it goes. But let me play the example and you'll see what I mean. Okay.
Go. Next time. That's all. Stand.
Okay, so I've got my little route laid out. I don't know if you noticed what I was doing. I was keeping my pen where it was last time, and sometimes just dropping it down. So maybe I'd put a dot there, and then I would move it down, ready to either go early or stay where I was or go late. In this one, I'm not going to track my pen across the numbers because I know it's not going to come up here. If it's starting there, it's got to go there. You also know that it's got to come back to this corner to finish off to get to rounds. So that's quite a handy hint to get back down. And what you might notice is there will be little bits of symmetry. So here it comes up, 2 blows in fourth, 4 in fifths, 2 blows in fourth again and back down. So that little bit there is symmetrical. And so is this little, up to thirds and back. So little things like that might help you. That's just how the methods, well, principles in this case, that's how they work. So it can be a little hint. But you just want to listen to it. And if you get lost, then the joy of YouTube, you can rewind it, start again, but equally you just pick it up again. And if you get a little section of it right, that's brilliant. Okay, let's have, that, by the way, if you want to ring this is called Phoenix doubles. There you go. Okay, question 1 then, for you to fill in.
Go. Next time. That's all. Stand.
Right, well there we go. Tricky stuff. If you got some of that, well done. You can always rewind it, listen to it again. And now it's finished, you can maybe look at that symmetry, see if that helps you to fill in any missing gaps. Assuming you have rewound and listened to it as many times as you need to, let's have a look at the answer. So this is what it should have looked like. We actually stayed in first place for 3 more blows. And then we came up, did this little step back, 2 blows in fourth, 4 in fifths, 2 blows, and then the symmetry coming back down to the front. So if you want to ring this one on your practice night, this one is called Paradox doubles. I don't know where they come up with these names, but that's what it's called. Okay, question 2. Same thing, so starting in the rounds, we hear it once as he says go next time, then we hear it again, and then is it staying put or is it starting by moving up into seconds? Here it is, question 2.
Go. Next time. That's all. Stand.
Okay, that is question 2. Time to rewind it if you want to hear it again. But if not, then here's the answer drawn out. Okay, so it comes up into fifths, down to thirds, up into fifths, and it does this little step back, lead, and step back into first again. So well done if you got little patches of that, and fantastic if you got it all the way through. We'll move on to question 3. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say, if you want to ring that at practice night, that's called Titanic doubles. Question 3 then. This one is same as before, same number of changes. Starting at in first place and trying to track that treble as it moves around. Here it goes.
Go. Next time. all. Stand.
Okay, so that was question 3. If you want to rewind that, now's your chance. Otherwise, here's the answer coming up. So in this one, we came up and did 2 blows in seconds, and then up to the back, down to thirds, up to the back, a little 2 blows, and then we finished with lots of blows in the middle there. Not in the middle, sorry, in the lead there to bring it round. So well done if you got that. This one is called What You Please doubles. Question 4. Now, question 4, I've gone over my heading here because this one's just got a few more changes. It's a bit longer. So, a bit trickier in that respect. But let's give it a go. Here it goes.
Go. Next time. That's all. Stand.
Alright, how did you get on with that one? Time to rewind if you want to, but if you're ready for the answer, then here it comes. This one is called Cactus, and I think that's because it's really spiky. So you come up straight up to second, 2 blows in thirds, you do 2 blows in fifths, a spike there in fourths, 2 in fifths, spike the front, spike the back, and then do the lead, spike, lead. It's the same as you did there on the front. And that one's called Cactus. Well done if you got any of that. Question 5, we're back down to the same length as we started with. And this is the sound.
Go. Next time. That's all. Stand.
Okay, so that was question 5. Rewind if you want to, but otherwise, here is the answer. Question 5, this was called tendring. Tendring. So I don't know if I said that right, but that's what it's called. Starts with 3 blows in lead, and then comes up 2 blows, and then a little dodge here, lie, dodge back, and the same 2 blows, and 1 to finish off in lead again. So how much of that did you get right? And then the last question, question 6, it's another long one. So we've got, again, going over our heading here, it's even longer than the one we did in question 4. So tricky stuff, but we know it starts in the beginning. Count it through, listen a few times if you need to, but without any more rambling, here's the last question, question 6.
Go. Next time. all. Stand.
All right, and that was the last one, question 6. Chance to rewind if you want, but otherwise here is the answer. And this one is called vegetarian sausage, would you believe? It comes up 3 blows there, out to the back, 4ths, 5ths, down to the front, out to the back, lead, second, lead, and then it starts again. So, well done if you survived any of those. Obviously, it's not a hugely important task, a hugely important skill rather, to be able to do this, to be able to follow a bell. I mean, it's not a bad skill if you can. Most useful if you're stood outside the tower waiting for a piece of ring to finish. You might follow the tenor and listen to that, and you can hear where it is in the method. And if you know what they're ringing, then you might think, okay, right, it's at the back, so I just heard it dodge, and you can work out how long you're going to be stood there waiting for their quarter peal to finish, maybe. Is that a skill in itself that's particularly useful, especially if you're early on? Not in itself, but hopefully you can see it's the culmination of the things we've been looking at in this course, of listening to all of the bell sounds, counting it, picking out certain bells to hear. The treble is the easiest to pick out, but hopefully so you can start to hear the different sounds of the bell. Whereas you probably have been just concentrating on pulling the rope and maybe blocking out all this information that you can get by listening, the rhythm of it, where you are in the change, whether you're the one who's right or not. It's all incredibly useful stuff. Which brings me on to round 5, which we're not going to do online, because this is something for you to take away. So on real bells in your tower at practice night, this is what you hopefully can do or start to try and do. So even if you really struggle with these exercises over these 4 videos, at least you know what you're trying to achieve, so you can try and practice it and get better. So whilst you're sat out and you're not ringing, try and count the rhythm of the ringing. Now it won't be as perfect as the recordings because they were done by the computer, but can you just count along with it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can you keep that count going in your head for the whole piece of ringing? Whether they're on 6 or 8 or whatever they're ringing, can you keep along with it for the whole time? Can you do what we just did? Can you listen out for the treble? Can you, at the end, if they're ringing a method, say, oh, that was a plain method. The treble just went up to 5 and back down, and up to 5 and back down. And you might say, oh, that was minor, wasn't it? Because it went up to 6 and back down. Or that did the dodging in each place. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. So you might be able to pick out different types of methods and ask people afterwards, oh, was that kind? And they'll say, oh, yes, it was, well done. Or oh, actually, no, it was this one instead. You might listen for striking errors. That's probably quite difficult to do when they're ringing the actual method itself. I mean, you might hear the errors, but it's hard to know who it is and where. But certainly in the rounds, if they're ringing on 8, a very common mistake is to hear the front 4 and there'll be a little gap, and then hear the back 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hear that sort of like 2 sets of 4 instead of 1 set of 8. So listen out for it. Is the person leading correctly? Does it have a little gap in it? Is the tenor close enough? You don't have to talk, if people don't mind, you've got to be careful not to upset people if you start picking apart their ringing. But it might be that you talk to the tower captain or your teacher after and say, oh, in that, I thought that's what I heard. What do you think? And they might say, yes, it was. They're struggling a bit. Let's not make a big deal of it, but you're right, you did hear that correctly, or something like that. Whilst you're ringing yourself, you should definitely be counting the rhythm of the ringing as you're counting. And that might be too much if you're early on at the moment, but it's something you need to work on, is being able to count the sound of it with that delay. So you're pulling the rope by rhythm, your arms doing the same pull every time, and then your head counting from what you're hearing to say, does it sound right? Is it in the right place? I'm bell number 4, we're ringing rounds. Is the 4th sound neat, or is it early or late? Is it in the right place for the striking? And if it's not, then you can try and wiggle it around and find that place, but you need to start counting it so that you have a chance of knowing. in rounds. So if it doesn't sound right, try wiggling it around. Or if you think that you are right, if it sounds really good and you're like, oh, well, I can't tell, is that me, is that not me? Well, pull a bit quicker, hold it up a little bit, go slightly wrong so you can hear that that is you and you're right, you are, in that place, you're hearing it right. Or if it is slightly wrong, then wiggle it around, see what happens. It's practice night. If you make it worse and it stands up, well, never mind. At least you're trying something to try and hear it. And when you can hear it, then you can fix it. And yes, I think I already said, definitely listen to the leading. Does everyone do it the same? Especially when they're ringing a method. Is it always off that tenor, if it's doubles or triples, is it always the same gap? Or are some people leading neatly, some people too early, too late? Again, try not to, hopefully you can tell who's maybe a bit more sensitive than others. So it might not be a good idea to go up and start, talking about these things and upset people. But a quiet word with your teacher saying, I can hear a difference between that person leading and that person leading. And they can talk you through why there is a difference, what they're doing differently, and what you're doing and how you can improve that. And for a competition, especially if you've got a competition coming up, then this is exactly what a judge will do. They'll listen to the striking, and rather than tracking the treble like you have, is they'll have that squared paper and they'll put a little mark in where they hear that slight syncopation, like we heard in Rocky Rounds. That'll get a little fault for that row because one bell was slightly out of place. Now, some people really mean and will give a fault for each bell that's out of place. Some will just say it's a fault for a row with some slight syncopation in. And then if bells properly crash into each other, then that'll be a double fault. And then they'll count up the faults at the end. It doesn't matter how you do it. The important thing is that get some squared paper, listen to it, and see if you can hear that syncopation, hear those crashes, and keep track of it as you go through. I'm not saying you're going to, judge it perfectly, but it's useful for you to try and do it, to listen to it, just to get your mind and your ears trained to hear the bell sounds and to react to them. And you might then, again, be sensitive, but if the band doesn't mind, you might then show them and say, well, this is what I thought. Do you think this is vaguely accurate? Or maybe get someone who is a bit better to do it and you do it, and then you can compare and say, did you vaguely agree about where there were half faults or syncopation faults, and where there's those double faults with the clashes and things like that. So I just have some notes here of how you do that, but I think I've talked through most of those. It's not easy, but that's not a reason to not give it a go. You just got to have a go at these things to get better at them. And the important thing is if you're listening as well as doing your ringing, then it will get better and you'll get better at it, and suddenly it'll be calm enough that you can do your handling and think about your chord changes or your method or your tenoring behind or whatever it is you're trying to ring, and be able to listen to it at the same time and not feel that cognitive overload, and suddenly it'll all fit. But until then, try and do it separately. Maybe listen when you're sat out. Just get through your ringing when you're doing it, but keep listening when you're sat out so that you can bring these things together when you are ringing. If you've made it all the way through the course, all the way through all of the rounds, done all the exercises, then well done, and thank you for sticking with me as I've rambled on. I hope it's been helpful, maybe even enjoyable every now and again, but thank you, and ta-ra for now.